My name is Olaf Bruns and I'm a freelance journalist here in Brussels and a conference moderator. And we'll bring together young people from the Western Balkans and half a dozen EU ambassadors to those countries. And it will be all about building a bridge between them and the European Union, making their voices heard. So a very warm welcome to all the participants and looking forward to talking to you.
Dobar dan iz predivne Bosne I Hercegovine.
Zdravo iz Srbije.
Pozdrav od Severna Makedonija.
Zdravo društvo, puno pozdrava šaljemo vam iz Crne Gore.
Përshëndetje nga Kosova. I'm Mara Brescia and I'm talking to you from the beautiful city of Prizren.
Përshëndetje të Prizrenit të gjithëve. Hello everyone, greetings from Albania.
So let's move to the studio and start the debate. See you soon. Well, that's awesome. Let's get the ball rolling. I'm delighted to see that there's so many people joining, but we only have an hour and a half, so I try not to do too much talking and move straight into the debate. In this first part, we'll give the word to 6 EU ambassadors to 6 Western Balkan countries, and they all come with a team of high school students from their respective countries. So let's start with David Geer, who represents the European Union in North Macedonia and the high school students from North Macedonia. A very warm welcome, David. Happy Europe Day, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, and happy Europe Day to you and to all the students, young European ambassadors, and my fellow ambassadors. Great pleasure to be here. I think this is one of those events we might not have done before the pandemic, but it's something positive that comes out of that. So I've been asked just to say a few words, first of all, about myself. Well, here I am. My name's David Geer. I'm the head of delegation in Skopje, North Macedonia. And I come from that generation born in the 1960s, whose parents had the experience of the Second World War. And in fact, my father fought in the Second World War. And one of the things, even though he never talked about it or hardly ever talked about it, one of the things that I grew up with from him and inherited from him was a sense of never again. We should never allow this to happen again. And we should do everything we can to try and prevent that happening. And so almost by osmosis, I picked up some of the key values of the European Union, fighting for peace and security, and its values and aspirations for human rights, democracy, tolerance, rule of law. By training, I'm a lawyer. But I've also worked in civil society organizations, human rights, international law, and I've served in our delegations in Georgia and Armenia, the West Bank and Gaza, and now in North Macedonia. And I've also served quite a long time in Brussels too. And if I was to say what moments for me were the most important in my career, I think there were those Brussels years when I was able to witness the series of enlargements which were so important in shaping the European Union and in resolving many outstanding issues across Europe. So there we are. I've said what Europe means for me. And so it's really over to you now. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the words, the European Union?
For me, European Union means new perspectives and better standards for youth.
The European Union for me means freedom, especially the possibility to travel freely all across Europe.
The European Union for me is an opportunity for education.
The first thing which comes to mind when I hear European Union is exploring new cultures.
Connecting with young people and peers.
The European Union is a bridge that connects the diversities.
Thank you very much, everybody in the video. Thanks, David. And we move from North Macedonia to Montenegro. I invite the EU ambassador to Montenegro, Oana Kristina Popa, to come in next to talk about her and her team. Happy Europe Day. How are you?
Happy Europe Day to you. Thank you very much. We're good. We're very happy to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Oana Cristina Popa. I'm the EU ambassador to Montenegro. I come from Cluj-Napoca, Romania. Cluj-Napoca is the capital of Transylvania, which you all may know because of Dracula, but there's so much more to it. Today, I'm a career diplomat in the Romanian Foreign Service, and I'm a historian and an international relations specialist by academic training. I have served most of my diplomatic career in the Western Balkans. I was ambassador to Croatia, to Serbia, and last year I joined the European External Action Service, and I am currently the EU ambassador to Montenegro. I'm particularly delighted to be here today with young people because I always enjoy speaking to young people. More so, I would like to follow up a little bit on what David said. I grew up a little later in communism, and that is also part of the Never Again package, alongside with the horrors of World War II. I have had the chance, and I was lucky enough to be young enough when the Iron Curtain fell and to be able to enjoy the opportunities of the free world. And in many ways, if not in all, I'm a product of the European Union, and I have benefited from all the advantages that the EU has brought. I have traveled across Europe. I have benefited from academic trainings, from travel exchanges with fellow students from Europe. So this is one of the great assets that the EU can bring. And I encourage you all to take as much advantage as you can. The voice of young people is extremely important because you are the future. You are the future leaders. So go out there and seize the moment.
This year, the European Union turns 71, and that reminds us of a more secure future.
Although the European Union is technically 28 years old because we know it by this name since the Maastricht Treaty in 1993, it's actually a lot older. The first idea came up in the year 1950 in Paris as the European Coal and Steel Community.
It can depend on what we think of. What do we think about the European continent, the name, civilization, or even the unity and the European Union? Around 50 million years ago, rising and falling sea levels had determined the actual shape of Europe.
Since today is a National European Day, Europe is officially 71 years old.
According to statistics, average age in European Union is 43.7 years.
The story about permanent peace and stability has been living for 7 decades and making the life better for all the people abiding by its laws.
So I guess those were the answers to the questions that I was supposed to pose. How old is the EU?
How old is the EU? Indeed, that were the answers. Oh, great. And next in line is Kosovo. Hello, Kosovo, and hello to the ambassador of the European Union in Pristina, Tomasz Zujog. A very warm welcome.
Well, thank you. Hello, and happy Europe Day. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of this program. It's very encouraging to talk to young students, young ambassadors. As David, I was born also in 60s in the Czech Republic, or what is now the Czech Republic. So for more than 20 years, I was actually looking at and observing the European Union from outside, from behind the Iron Curtain. And so I was very much affected by 1989, the democratic transition of Europe and unification of Europe. I joined the Foreign Service in '92 and served as a Czech diplomat, also in the Western Balkans, as ambassador in Slovenia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also director for the Western Balkans region in Prague. As Oana, I also joined last year the European External Action Service, and I'm really honored to be here as the head of EU office in Kosovo, but also as a EU special representative in Kosovo. Again, my question deals with the Western Balkans. So my question is, what is the European Union doing for the Western Balkans?
The European Union is the largest supporter of youth in Western Balkans region and helps young people with funding through scholarships and other programs.
The European Union is a family that offers great opportunities for the countries wanting to join. The Western Balkans are definitely a place that envisions itself someday in the future being a part of this family. But of course, in order for that goal to be achieved, there's a great deal of work that needs to be done from both sides. The EU, over its course, has invested and is still investing a lot of time, money, effort, and resources into developing the Western Balkans. But in the same breath, I could also say that it could do more.
These days, in the times of global crisis due to the pandemic, the European Union has been a tremendous help for the Western Balkan countries. The EU has donated millions of euros to help the Western Balkan countries from collapsing, and it's continuously working to secure vaccines as much as possible to fight against COVID.
The European Union is helping and supporting projects in the Western Balkans to use renewable energy in order to protect and save the environment.
They are helping us develop new skills and knowledge.
Through the stabilization and association process, EU has helped Western Balkans establish peace, stability, and economic prosperity in the region.
Now we've heard what young people from the first set of 3 countries think. But this was only a warm-up for more questions and for more answers for everybody who's watching. Now, we should have had the ambassador of the European Union to Albania, Luigi Soreka, but he couldn't join. So I asked the question to the high school students, have you heard of the European Youth Goals?
The European Youth Goals, definitely I heard about it. I even got to experience them, I think, especially the first one, connecting Europe to its youth all around the continent. Starting from here, the local town, village level up to Brussels, to the central institutions level. So.
It's all about strategy that European Union is developing for supporting youth. By settling up goals which are consisting in helping youth for creating the better future.
Although I've heard about European Youth before, I don't know the goals of this organization.
Even though I've heard of the European Youth before, to be honest, I have not heard much about its goals.
To be honest, I wasn't informed about the European Youth Goals at the beginning, but I did my own research and found out how amazing and helpful they actually are. And why not? I love to be helpful to achieve these goals.
The European Youth Goals, and we move to Sarajevo and meet the team of the ambassador of the European Union to Bosnia and Herzegovina, Johan Zadler. Johan, it's a great day, isn't it?
It's a fantastic day. It's sunny here in Sarajevo, so a warm welcome all of to you and everybody who is with us here today online. As said, I'm the European Union ambassador here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Before, I was Austrian ambassador in Albania. But my first encounter with the Balkans starts way back in the 90s after the war, when I was posted here in Sarajevo as a political officer in the ECMM. Now, you might not have heard about this organization. It's the European Community Monitoring Mission. Now, since there is the word community in there, it means that we have been in business for a long time. The European community has become, in the meantime, as you know, of course, the European Union. But the goal then was to bring people together again, to bridge gaps, and to help with reconstruction. It's a bit difficult sometimes to gauge, what you actually produce as a diplomat. What's the outcome of your work as a diplomat? Because we talk a lot, as you know. It's also important because we bring people together. But the one thing which I am proud to have been part of is something which is an institution which we have now in the Balkans, which is called the Regional Youth Cooperation Office. And this basically is based on one of the best reconciliation projects of the 20th century. This is the Franco-German Youth Exchange. And basically starting after the Second War, exchanging youngsters, high school students from one country to the other. The same thing is happening now in the Balkans. And this is very good news because there's not enough exchange between the countries in the region. So we have since 3 years the Regional Youth Cooperation Office in Tirana. This is the headquarters there, but there are offices in all our other 6 countries. And this brings me to my question, because RICO encapsulates this idea of the European youth goals. And I want to ask the group here, what is, do you think your peers are familiar with the European youth goals?
Unfortunately, I don't think that youth in Bosnia and Herzegovina is familiar with European youth goals. However, I guess that's what we are for.
Sadly, only a few peers of mine are truly aware and essentially familiar with European youth goals. That's why we need to work on it and spread more awareness. These goals are for the good of us all.
I believe that the majority of my peers are not familiar with the European youth goals. I believe that a small part of them that actually is familiar does not understand the whole concept behind it.
I think that some have definitely heard about them, but only a small fraction of them know what the European youth goals actually are.
Young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina are familiar with European youth goals, but it is time to learn more.
I think that the young people in Bosnia and Herzegovina are pretty much familiar with European youth goals, but not enough. Also, I think that through various activities, we should work on popularizing them.
Keywords we'll be debating later in the debate. Thank you very much already to everybody in that video. And last, but absolutely not least, we have the ambassador of the European Union to Serbia, Sam Fabrizi. Welcome, Sam. The floor is yours.
Hi, Olaf. Good morning or good afternoon to all of you, and a big dobrodošli from Belgrade. The city today is in a great shape. There's a lot of a good vibe. I came from the center of the city where they gave me a nice t-shirt. I don't know if you can see with our logo. We've written my name on it. So it's a great 9 of May that we have started celebrating last night in Belgrade. Well, I understand all our colleagues in the region are the mythical generation of the 60s, which to young generation we look like old and of another generation. We are of another generation, but at least in my case, I grew up in Italy, and as being part, I grew up with the country was already part of the EU, so I never questioned very much what the EU is about. We should enter into the EU or not. So for me, it was something a little bit on the background, part of the natural landscape. But growing up, I saw what means being part of the EU. I remember in the 80s, I made my first trip to Brussels to visit the institution. Of course, as a student, there was never enough money. We went by train, and every time we had to go to another country, the police were coming to check the passport. You had to change the money, and after 16 or 18 hour traveling, I remember, was the Rome-Brussels train. If you go now, over the past decades, there's been Ryanair, Erasmus, Euro, Schengen. So all these things that for a young people who are a traveler matter has been solved magically. Right now you can travel between Rome and with every cities within the European Union without no problem, no borders, no passport control. In very few cases you have to change the currency. So this is a reality that being grown up, I saw firsthand. I'm a diplomat by career, as all our colleagues, and I've been working for the Italian foreign service and for the EU foreign services for many years. I traveled the world. I lived in Brussels, and certainly being here in this position in Belgrade gave me a great opportunity. It's also a great responsibility of what representing the EU to the general audience. And certainly the question we all have, and we're trying to strive, what kind of connection we have as the European Union with you, quite the young generation who will one day, I hope sooner than later, will travel within Europe without any border, any different of passports, any different of currency, and being part of the larger European family. So how we are connected to you. Back to you, Olaf. Thank you.
Now, first,
I would say that they are connected through Erasmus Plus projects, where they can get to know European politics better, but also they can get to meet other young people.
Yes, I believe so. I have heard of opportunity through the European Solidarity Corps.
Yes, I believe that EU is connected with the youth, because if it weren't, then this project wouldn't exist.
Did you know that there is an EU youth strategy for the period until 2027? It covers 11 European youth goals and introduces the role of the EU Youth Coordinator. Find out more at the EU Youth portal.
The Young European Ambassadors Network is a good example of that.
Probably suspected the last answers we heard were the answers to the question, is the European Union connected with youth? But here we are in the center of today's debate. Let the youth talks begin. Now it's up to us listening to the voice of young people from the Western Balkans. We've already seen them in the videos, and now they're here with me, and they seem to have a lot of answers. It's their energy and their enthusiasm that should be used as a driving force in setting the blueprints for the next generation. We have high school students connected here from Albania, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, from Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and from Serbia. A very, very warm welcome to you all, guys. Now, we'll be having a discussion panel with almost 40 people, which is easily the biggest panel I personally have ever moderated. And for those almost 40 people, we have barely 1 hour. So please bear with me if I don't introduce everybody. But perhaps a word of collective introduction. I read through your biographies, and what I saw in terms of civic and cultural engagement left me personally deeply humbled. And bear with me if I omit anybody of you in the discussions. Those who raise their hands more often might end up speaking more often, but here on Zoom, I can't even see you all together. But let's get this on track now. What we are trying to do now is to hear your opinions on the European Youth Goal number 1. Our audiences might be aware of the youth goals, but if you're not, it's 11 goals, which are the outcome of a youth dialogue process with over 50,000 young people from all over Europe. And that means from inside and outside the European Union. And the first goal is about connecting the European Union with young people. And this can, of course, be turned upside down as well as downside up. It's about connecting the European Union with youth, as well as connecting youth with the European Union. So my first question, which was already hinted at in the videos, really, what are the things that come to your mind when you hear about the European Youth Goals? And now I have to click on gallery view to see your hands raised, and I see Tia.
Hello, everyone. First things first, when it comes to my mind about European Youth Goals is youth, the power of youth, connected by this huge power of the European Union, you know? It's how we can change the world with the future and kind of the power because it's not the past, in my opinion. And yeah, that's what comes to my mind. It's like giving power to youth and giving them a voice to speak.
Well,
Thank you very much.
that perfectly sets the scene, of course, giving power to youth. Can I hear somebody else? What comes to your mind? I see David. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I would definitely agree with that. But the thing that comes to my mind when I hear about the youth goals is definitely the path we need to be taking, because we know we're all united and that's the thing we're working on. But we need to have like some goals we're working towards when we are united. And I think that's the best part of that.
I see Emira.
I agree with David and Thea, but I will also say when I hear about European Union and youth goals, I think about one big family, which is united and which is creating a better future for all of us. And our voices can be heard through European Union. We can volunteer more, we can be active, and we can create a better future.
Stereo. Oh, Stelio, I think you're muted.
Oh, I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, but that's
Yes.
part of the Zoom world we're living in, so no worries.
Yes,
Go ahead.
that's great. Thank you. For me, I believe the goal of the European youth is to make the youth conscious of what it means to be Europe and a member of this continent. Also, I believe the most important thing is to be conscious that we are the future of this continent and that we will be an essential part to it, not just something unimportant. Thank you.
Kalina, same question to you. What comes to mind? European youth goals.
First that comes to my mind is equality of everyone.
Afan.
I would just also agree with everyone so far and add that youth is future of pretty much every civilization, and by connecting youth of Europe, we are practically connecting our futures.
Perfect. Now let's move a little bit forward. First goal, as I said, is connecting the European Union with youth. What I would like you to answer me is what does that mean for you? And when I ask these questions, what I'm after is not so much the legal definitions, but rather what does that mean for you personally in your lives? Valdo.
So, hello. Well, personally, I think with connecting youth with you, it's like mixing cultures together and making young people or youth cooperate with each other and learn from each other, give experience to each other, and get more and more and more advanced in their life. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera.
Except connecting youth with each other, I think that the goals of EU it's to like make a change and make a great impact to our communities.
Annika.
Hello. Well, I definitely think that it means that we get to be better persons and that we get to meet other young people who are ambitious, active, and just amazing as us.
Well, that's a very hopeful outlook indeed on the European youth goal, connecting the European Union with youth. I asked two more, Anastasia.
So for me, connecting EU with youth is actually giving the young people the opportunity to experience European Union and to give us a practical experience into what's happening there and connection as a whole.
And finally, Amil, connecting the European Union with youth. What does that mean to you personally?
That means you're connecting us and you're letting us spread our voice, and the world remains on young youth.
Amil, just for the next time, I think do you have a microphone that touches your tissue somewhere? There might be some sound interference. Anyway,
I have my Bluetooth phone.
Oh, perfect. You'll come back later. There was a little bit of rubbing in the sound. Right. Now, to move that a bit further, how do you feel connected to the European Union? Yeah, you have still your hand raised. You want to give it another try? Thea doesn't answer. Azra, how do you feel connected to the European Union?
I personally feel very connected through the various opportunities that I have and the exchange of cultures that constantly goes on between every country inside the EU and even the countries that are outside of it, and just to all the opportunities and all the exchange of cultures and the opportunities where we get to meet people from other countries and exchange opinions. Through all of those, I do feel very connected.
Perfect. Afan.
I would also add, from a perspective of someone coming from Western Balkans, I would say that it's practically impossible for us to travel anywhere without crossing European Union, which is also a pretty important part because it's our connection with the rest of the world as well as the European Union itself.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to take the same question and somehow put it the other way around. And it's a question that is a little bit similar, but a little bit different also to one in the videos. Not is the European Union connected with youth, but rather how would you like the European Union to be connected to you as young people? Rivaldo.
So what I would personally like is EU to invest in schools, high schools especially, and university, to make students more knowledgeable what is happening in EU, and to help them be in the same way that students in Germany or France are getting the school done or university. A thing that I would like is like getting some students, some excellent students from university and high school, send them to Germany or France or Belgium or Netherlands, and make them understand what is happening in EU, and to get those lessons to Albania especially, and help young people cooperate with countries in EU. That's what I would like.
That is pretty much close to what Erasmus is aiming for, of course. We stay for a second in Albania, and that is just the coincidence of raised hands with Gayla.
Hello. So when talking about the correlation between the EU and youth, we should consider it as a symbiosis, where we have this correlation, this relation between the two parts, where the European Union should act as a catalyst of itself. And talking about this, we should also know that there are many different ways in which youth can benefit, but also in which the European Union can take all the outcomes, of course positive ones, by letting youth include in different decision-making processes. And the better way to do so is to let these youngsters to louder their voice and also to let it be heard. By doing so, they can take part in different surveys or questionnaires, or perhaps in different meetings that let them believe that their voice matters, and they are able, and also they are enabled to think outside the box. By doing so, we not only give youngsters the opportunity to speak themselves, but also to represent their countries and themselves the way they should and the way they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gayla. But just a note to everybody, don't shoot all your powder at the first question when you come in. You will have several opportunities to come in. I will do my best for that to happen. Afan, how would you like the European Union to be connected to youth?
One thing that first comes to my mind is creating some kind of universal curriculum which will be available for all students across the continent. And by doing that, I guess that we would create something which is, it would create the background which would help everyone connect, which is, in my opinion, the most important part about European Union presence in Western Balkans.
Thanks a lot. And I move to Alba. How would you like the European Union? It's really about you guys personally. How would you like the European Union to be connected to youth?
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of the things that the European Union could do for our country is the educational system. I think that by investing in the educational system, they are affecting directly to the youth. But also a second thing is that if the EU could make us youth, give us the opportunity to travel freely, like the rest of the youth in the West Balkans.
Well, that is probably something many of you are hoping indeed. Hannah, how about you?
Yeah, so I would like to add on to what was previously said. So definitely something that's really important for the EU to be connected with the Western Balkans is education. But I think I'd take a step further and talk about what happens after education. So that's really important that we have some sort of projects between the Western Balkans and the EU regarding maybe some professional projects, some research projects, just to like connect, especially young people that have just finished education, with people from around the continent in order to further some sort of research, because that is something that we're definitely lacking here. And not only would a connection or joint projects with someone from the EU, some other young people from the EU would enable us to actually do those projects, but also just acquire everything that's really a positive side for example, like for education, just like international prospects to see how it is in other countries as well.
Hannah, could you make this a little bit more concrete, like an example of a research project and how this could be structured that it works out?
Structure. So regarding research projects, I mean, that's really connected to my personal perspective. It's
sure,
really important.
But this is what it's all about.
Yeah, so for natural sciences, definitely, because that's something that should not be like the approach to research not be based on only in one country. It should be based on the interaction of different countries. So I think because in general, the EU countries have more funds for those projects, I think that just because someone is, let's say, in some country, that should not define how many funds they have in order to execute certain research projects. So this would actually enable not only that a really good project may be executed and have funds enough, but also that you can have just the perspective and the knowledge of different people from different countries, different educational backgrounds, in order to create some sort of like optimal project. So I think that's really important specifically for natural sciences, because that's something that I have experience with, something that I want to do later on in my life. And so I think for natural sciences, definitely, especially today, like with this pandemic, it was really important, like international cooperation in the creation of the vaccine. So I think that's a really good example of how we could actually straighten this connection between the Western Balkans and the EU.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot indeed. Arbresha, I give you the floor.
Hello, everyone. If I was given an opportunity to do something to fix something, my advice would be half of the many young people in Kosovo, because I think most of their thoughts are proportional at time and very realistic to the event, because I think young people have a lot of challenge with making their decision. They can cost you your life, and they know very well what it's like to make such a decision when you know that behind your back you have a not very strong developing country and not many good opportunities for life. So only they know best what it's like to develop and form as a person in Kosovo.
Thanks a lot. I move to Christian. How would you like the European Union?
I think that for now the UA is very connected with us young people. All you need to do is increase that family or that network. Although it may increase some investments in dialogue and local youth policy making, but for young people wants to be involved in all that process. I think the most investments must go in dialogue and local youth policies.
Sure, and I think the ambassadors who are listening to us, of course, are already with their notepad taking notes. Emira.
So I agree that we should invest in education because education is our future, but I also think that our voice should be heard more and that we should be more involved in politics making, in law making, because yes, our voice is heard, but I honestly think that it's not enough, and EU should make us, should make our voice more heard.
Making your voices heard, that is indeed an important and very, very important point. Blendy.
Oh, hi everyone. So basically, I love the discussion so far going on. What I wanted to say actually was about how we can fix something in the European Union in our countries in the Western Balkans, because clearly the youth is connected with the European Union in our countries, because the European Union is in our countries. That's why it must be connected with youth. What I would change, because we have an inside joke with our friends when we go in projects in Erasmus and in other projects funded by the European Union. That joke is when we finish the project, we say, we will see again in the next project. Because we are the same people in almost every project in North Macedonia, and what we would need to be fixed is to make the opportunities that European Union has for accessible for everyone, to attract more youth from the marginalized group and also from the hard to reach youth.
Blendy, thank you very much. I think this is a very, very important point. That's why I would like you to elaborate a bit further, because now there's 6 ambassadors sitting and listening to you. How exactly to attract those people?
It is very important to try and promote these opportunities that European Union has with everyone in the country, in the Western Balkans, and try to find ways to include also the hard to reach youth, so they can be part of the different projects, and that way they can see other cultures and see other challenges.
Maybe still, Kalina, on this same question, how would you like the European Union to be connected to you as young people?
Actually, Blendy kind of stole my answer, so that's why I would like to elaborate further. I believe it was the ambassador of Serbia who said that he was born in Italy, so for him, European goals and perspectives were sort of a part of the natural landscape. However, for us, that's just not the case. To us, it looks a bit distant, unknown, and unfamiliar, I guess. And this is where I would like to continue what Blendy said, that yes, many of those speakers previously said that the youth is connected to the European Union. However, I would disagree with that to a part, because I believe that it's only a section of young people who are connected to that. It's always the ones who are more educated, more knowledgeable, more progressive, and more modern, which, yes, those are some characteristics that we should definitely work on. However, by appealing only to those types of people, it's simply impossible for those who are not so educated or so progressive to become. So I guess a way in which we can better this and work towards this goal is by being present and acting locally. The thing is that the situation is not the same in Skopje, it's not the same in Veles, which is a city here, or even, I don't know, in the villages or smaller places around Skopje, as it is not the same in Malta and Italy. So I think it's important to not to generalize with the goals and ideas, but to work with the villages, the cities, the countries in particular, and specifically to sort of be more creative with the special needs of those countries and not to generalize. But yeah, I'd say that's it.
Kalina, thank you very much. I think that's a very relevant topic. It's a very relevant point to all policymaking. How overgeneralized are we doing that, and how specific do we really need to be? And that is, of course, not only specific to the different countries that are involved, but also to the situations in the countries, as you very rightly pointed out, that well, you happen to have a little bit less education, and it's all get very easily gets out of reach. I would like to ask another question, which is of course linked. But some of you have said in the videos we've seen earlier on that the youth goals are not that well known. And this is tied, of course, exactly to what Kalina just said. But what would you propose to make them better known? Any ideas? Stilio, the first on my list of raised hand. And you're still muted.
I am once again sorry. Okay, so I believe to make the European youth goals more popular, I believe that there need to be more activities regarding the goals of the European Union, what the European Union is, what it's striving to become, and what we are building towards. And I believe that even though there have been certain activities at schools trying to promote these goals, they have not been enough. And even if there have been, they have not achieved their goals. I believe that we have to do something that it will strike in person. For example, the children, the teenagers, the students will feel the benefits for themselves if they become Europeans, if they go into the European Union, and how it will benefit them to achieve these goals and why they should work towards achieving them.
Still, if I might push you a little bit further on that.
Go on.
If you think in an ideal world, like where there's no constraints, what could you do concretely to reach, for example, those younger kids? How to reach them?
Well, I'll try to reach them personally.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Someone is calling, I apologize. Anyway, I go on. I believe that we have to ask these young people what they are striving towards the future, what they are trying to do. And I believe they are, of course, they will be interested about the future. And since they will be interested in it, they will find that there are certain goals that will help them. There are certain people who will help them. And that things will become a lot more easier just if they open up to the European Union and if they accept the idea of the European Union.
Yeah, Anastasia, I see you nodding to what Stilio was just saying. So I'll let you elaborate further.
Yeah, I completely agree with the previous speakers because I had the same experience when I come from certain projects. My peers always ask me, how did you apply? How did you find certain projects? How did you go there? And then I just feel like the promotion is the key. And also I feel that since we are not learning and they're not teaching us about European Union, about youth goals in schools, in our normal curricular activities, I believe that we need to spread that knowledge through projects, and we need the EU influence directly in our high schools and especially in less developed communities, because as it was previously stated, it is not the same when you live in the capital city and in the less developed community. So I feel that these youth goals are extremely important and that many peers are actually interested in developing and being actually aware of them, but they just don't have the opportunity to research. So I'm specifically doing that through social media, and when I'm on certain events or projects, I try to share that to my posts, to my stories. Then my peers ask me questions, and I'm always very open about answering them. And I feel that spreading the knowledge and spreading the influence is very important, especially through social media, since we're the modern generation.
That is certainly true. But Anastasia, you mentioned or you proposed the European Union to intervene directly in high school programs. Do you think this is something that would be well accepted, for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Well, if we're speaking the truth, I think that it wouldn't be as accepted, but there are many other ways, as I said, through alternative projects where they can interfere and they can actually come to schools and come and actually propose their ideas and their values. So maybe not directly to curriculum, but there are other ways.
But this is them probably being present and like coming personally to high schools, speaking with everybody around. Hannah.
Yeah, just to add on to what everyone said before. So I think it's really important to have, as with everything that should be promoted, a good advertisement. So to show maybe like some, I'm not going to say billboards, but really infomercials to show people that they exist, show people what they are, the significance of them. So that's really important that the youth actually realize how important it is, how beneficial it can be. So all of the positive sides related to that. But I think for me personally, when I'm looking at, let's say, new projects, want to learn new things, I would include everything that you can find online. So regarding the European Youth Goals and everything related to that, but I would definitely include maybe interviews, some sort of perspectives from people who have engaged in projects related to these European Youth Goals, because they can firsthand show other youths how this has changed them. Why is it good? Why is it maybe not good? What should be improved? Because there you get like a subjective view on the topic, and from the billboards, everything that you can find online, you can get an objective. So I think that's really important to have a good balance between the two, so that the youth can actually decide, is this for me, is this good? And they should be able to do that, because I think that this would be a really good opportunity for all of them. But I think it's really important to give them all information immediately there. So not only what they can find really by Googling or something, or even through social media, but to just contact and be in contact with people who have already had some sort of experience with that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thea, I saw you nodding several times.
Yes, because I clearly do agree with Hannah. Let's talk about this. When you asked us the question, I told you that I had to research it on my own. But what if we would give to everyone in our community, for example, the information they actually need it? And the point is that we have access to the information, but if we don't like kind of apply it in the schools, we won't research it on our own. So if more activities like this one happen, like a discussion, or I don't know, a fun game part about Europe, or I don't know, between the countries like this one, it would actually be really helpful to the youth, and we would actually love to like be part of this. Why not? Because a lot of youth don't know anything about it. So
I see. Yes, I see. Thanks a lot, Thea. I see amongst the raised hands Nadia also, which I think who I haven't had yet.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I wanted to say something about what you asked Anastasia about would maybe our high schools accept that we talk a little bit more about European Union. And I think that maybe even if they would not accept that, there are lots of non-profit organizations that are made of high school students that actually do some kind of projects on their own. And I think that maybe if a European Union could work with them, like high school non-profit organizations that are connected with school, but not primarily, maybe we can, maybe some other high schools can hear more about European Union and what that non-profit organizations are actually doing with it.
Well, I love that you guys have very, very concrete proposals, actually. Rivaldo, I saw you going from signs of total disapproval to nodding and signs of total approval. So I'm
here's
just very curious about your take here.
Look, here's the thing. Why we don't see what all students on high school and university has in common? That's good life and have a lot of money. That's like on all of them. It's funny, it sounds funny, but it is true. So why we don't do like competitions inside countries or between countries that can give scholarship or money or euros or something like that? Because money is the thing that always people want, like all their life. If you give them 100 million, they will still accept it. So why we don't do that? Give them some scholarships to go to like LA or New York or Berlin or Munich or Paris or something like that. Because competition, let's say, is the win that gives everyone an opportunity to give the maximum thing, you know? And why we get it so complicated in school and things like that? School is more about to learn you math, physics, biology, chemistry, history, things like that. do some competitions that are not inside schools, do some things privately, do some things that spread the word on TV, on leaflets, on social media. We have so much things to do. And what we offer, well, what I would like to offer are scholarships, money, give them some indeed things to make them more like to wish what they want, like to make the dreams come true. Because dreams are not sending them to Paris for a trip and then learn some things. They will get it, like, who will say if their community doesn't have like a source, let's say, a source to give them wish to do more, then what are we expecting to do those things in school?
Well, I love how you make a funny point and a serious point at the same time.
Well,
because
we need to accept reality, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you say like everybody's striving for money, you touch upon something which is certainly to a certain extent true. But when you translate that into scholarships, it becomes something very concrete. This is indeed a proposal to be taken note of.
Well,
I would like to do. You had something to answer like straight there?
No. Look, here's the thing. Personally, I've applied in different embassies, like in Canada, Belgium, UK. I've been visiting these countries. I had the opportunity, the good opportunity, let's say. And what I've seen there and what I'm seeing now in Albania, especially, it's so different. It's so sad to see what's going on here. And young teenagers are leaving schools just to get a job, to get some money for their families. So what we want, personally, I'm talking in all teenagers in every city in Albania, is to have a good future, let's say. They don't want to work and, like we say in Albania, and eat bread, but we want to have some vacations too. We want to go somewhere, visit some parts of the world. So why we don't give them this opportunity to do that? That's the thing, like that's the source that we need. Like, I'm talking about Albania, I'm not talking about other countries.
No, what you say, Rivaldo, is certainly applies to a certain extent, at least to many other places.
Yeah, but Albania is known as one of the poorest countries in Balkans. So
yeah, sure. Well, hope that the ambassadors not only take note but have massive amounts of money to distribute.
And 2 seconds, can I get it? Personally, I'm sorry that I'm talking.
2 seconds, but you will come in later, because we can't do just a duo of the two of us. Okay. Well, pushing this a little bit from the EU area to the individual countries, if we want to connect youth to any political entity, I think youth engagement comes center stage. And I know, because I read through your biographies, that you guys are the ones who are engaged. So what I would like to do in the next step is to gather some of your stories of your personal engagement. What are you busy with? What have you done in terms of youth engagement and volunteer works? Just maybe something that is not that extraordinary to you, because it's your life all the time, but it might be extraordinary to everybody else who's listening. And Afan, you have your hand raised.
So, first of all, my personal story with engagement in, let's say, civil society is mostly based on humanitarian work in Red Cross, to be more precise. So there I had multiple opportunities to be part of projects which include mitigating effects of migrant crisis, to some other locally based issues. To answer your question, I think the main thing in connecting youth through these civic engagements would be by surveying youth and adjusting the programs to certain subcultures present in our countries. So by having, let's say, custom programs for different subcultures, I believe that youth would be more connected through those common goals.
That's a very valid point, because it links also to what has been said earlier about well, listening on the one side, listening carefully, and also tailoring programs to all different communities that there are, and not just like to one serves everything. But I was now on another point, which is gathering your personal stories of youth engagement, of volunteer work. Blendy, you have your hand raised, and I happen to remember, I think so, correct me if I'm wrong, that you are the one who was fighting for better adaptation of the current education system to the COVID-19 situation. Isn't that true?
Yes, Olaf, right.
Tell me about that, because that's a very current example.
I will try to sum it up two answers, because first it was about the earlier question, and I wanted just because I'm so self-critic to myself, and I wanted to share something just shortly why the youth isn't informed. It is because one, we mentioned the reason of the European Youth Goals not being promoted as much. And second, it is our task as activists to share those goals with our peers, right? So a month ago, a student in a conference asked me, what does it mean activism for you? And I told her that activism for me, it is like a tag game. I have it and I pass it to someone else. This is our task as activists, to share it with others, to create more agents of change. Now back to the question. We are currently working on the reform on the education system for the secondary education. We have been working tirelessly from the beginning of the crisis to adapt our education system on the circumstances shown by the COVID-19. And also, most lately, we have negotiated a deal with Prime Minister, with Minister of Education, and with MPs to change the concept of state matura exam. And we did that extremely, it was extremely hard, because we had intense lobbying with MPs in the parliament, and almost we have been for straight one month in every headline in television and in every social media, and it was really extremely hard.
Blendy, let me just interrupt you a second, because we are on the current example here, and it touches also about what we are doing here as a Zoom conference, because we can't travel, because we can't meet, and so on. But what exactly was the problem you had identified in the education system in the current COVID-19 moment, and what was the solution you were striving for?
Based on the problem that we had with currently the system that we had when the pandemic started, it was really disorganized, because we weren't taught to use the digital tools and to have online learning. So we tried to give recommendation to the institutions to create a national digital platform for the students to get connected in one unified platform, and not to use Zoom or Google Meet, more platforms. That was taken into the consideration from the institutions, and we did it also. Some other we proposed the blended model approach of learning. So we would have schools with rotation, but they didn't take that into the consideration, even though it was a great proposal that would have been very amazing implemented if it had taken into consideration from the institutions.
Lenny, thank you very much. I also asked to elaborate further, because this is an example, I think, also for everybody, because you very clearly went into real politics, and you did manage to change things. So there is a possibility, which of course often doesn't work out, but sometimes indeed it does. Annika, your experience, your volunteer work, your engagement, what are you busy with, what you're striving for?
Yeah, well, I also started in Red Cross, and I have been volunteering there for, I don't know, 10 years, and I fell in love with volunteering. But I don't know, what I'm most proud of is that I had a chance to form a local youth council in my town, and it's not Belgrade, it's not anything big, it's small town, and I kind of left it because I had to go to high school, which we do not have here. So I was really sad that there weren't people who were taking care of young people who are here and who decided, or they didn't have money to go anywhere else. So with other two girls, I had I don't know, a petition for a local youth council, and local government said, okay, we will have that. But it was kind of a long process. It took me about 7 months for that, and it was really hard because first of all, they were like, oh, we do not need to have that. Why would you need that? The young people here are happy. They have an amazing life. But when I told them that I'm the first one who left that town because I didn't have the opportunity to be a high schooler here, and that young people are leaving this town, that they do not have a job here, that their families are the first ones to make them leave this town. They were like, oh, well, maybe we will need that, but what will it do? And it was complicated to explain that to them, that youth council is going to take care of young people, that it's going to give them opportunities to show themselves, to be better persons, to learn something new, to be leaders, to be activists. And the most important thing is that they will fall in love again with our town, and they will stay here. They wouldn't have to leave our families, their friends, and go, I don't know, to Belgrade, or I don't say it's worse, but for their families, it's kind of sad that they go to some other countries and they never come back.
Annika, and well, also the previous speakers, but what I particularly appreciate is well, basically you're speaking about endurance, and you need a lot of endurance to make things happen. And it's on one side that yes, there might be openings every now and then for engagement, but you really have to fight these through. May I just ask one other example before moving on to something else? Nadia, if I remember right, you mentioned ecology in your biography?
Yes, I did. I was actually a leader last year of one big project in our town where we closed our main street of the town, and we built kind of little ecology street or town where we had some kind of ecological stuff, ecological projects, ecological teachers basically that were studying about ecology that we could actually tell to our friends, our sisters, our grandmothers, you know, basically siblings or older people or younger people or Gen Z, you know. There were 10,000 people in that street that day, and it was very, very big success. And I think that in our country, we don't actually talk very much about ecology. And when we look at maybe, I don't know, France or England or any other country that it's in Western Europe, we can see that they are really known about ecology, and you can see that they are really into it. And when you go in maybe Western Balkan countries, you can see that we kind of don't take ecology very seriously, that I think that we should. And we don't take seriously a lot of things, but that was actually one of them. And I actually wanted to tell you about other project, and I will be really quick. I'm actually working now on a project. You know that you said earlier the European Union is working about peace. You know, they support peace between people. And we all know that countries in Western Balkan had in the past really, really big, I don't know, some bad mistakes, or they just didn't get along very well. And we're working currently on maybe how to make really good connections between countries, and to maybe have friends that are from other countries that maybe our country doesn't love or some other country doesn't love. So we can all hang out, so we can all talk about our problems together, so we can all, you know, just be normal people, that it's not very about politics, everything, and that we should actually make a change as a group and not as a, you know, just one country on the Western Balkans.
Indeed,
So,
I thought about this topic when well, several of the ambassadors initially mentioned how the European project, of course, is an answer to the conflicts the European continent was having, and well, your guys' countries had brutal conflicts not that long ago. So there is, of course, an element of this which carries on, and which is still relevant now, even though probably not that relevant to your life right now, but the societies have been forged by this history of conflict, of course. Now, I see now there's more than 10 hands raised, if I count right, and you all have your stories, which I immensely appreciate, and I'm curious of. But there's one topic I was asked to debate with you, and so I would like to know, when one speaks about youth engagement, in many countries there are laws about this, laws that are meant to facilitate youth engagement, youth policies, but also youth in politics. And I would like to ask you for a few examples. Just, are there kind of these laws in your countries? Are they implemented? Is there something happening? And I also open the debate now already to the yes, because time is running, and I see who's the first one I haven't had. Kalajit.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, I mean, indeed, we here in Albania, I mean, in like 2 years, we have a national youth law. We also have a national action plan on the youth that mentions many of the principles that we discussed today, the European youth goals, priorities, etc. But I mean, we have these new structures established by the law, which are consultative ones, which try to include the youth, etc., etc. But I guess the real problem, the roots problem, I mean, has not been erased. And I guess the roots problem is that we still try to deal with the youth in this very traditional way of dealing with them, like in a top-down approach. I mean, we have these consultative structures where the minister or the mayor actually runs the meeting and try to hear our opinion on any policies that they have already taken, or maybe they are thinking of taking. But I guess, and not to be too long, I mean, I want to conclude, like, my main message is, like, I think I speak in the name of young Albanians in this sense, but also in the region. I think we are done of expecting from the institutions just to hear us or to listen to us. I mean, we have gone to another stage where we want them to actually let us co-act and co-manage together with them all the policies they do. And I guess here, not only the Albanian institutions and politicians have a lot to learn how to do this, but I guess even the EU institutions themselves have to think about it, because there are some concrete examples on how you can actually co-manage policies with youth, but it's not very widespread. And I guess Albanian institutions, EU institutions, and politicians have not yet made that big mentality step, I would say, to go to that. So that's what I want. That's what I expect, and I mean, that's what I think all my colleagues should strive for. So.
Yeah, and it ties, of course, to the fact that if the state makes youth policies, it's basically youth that is concerned first way. Christian, the legal situation in Serbia.
I see a law through two ways. First is through youth policies. Second, through local plans for young people. Bearing in mind the youth policies affect young people, regardless of whatever young people influence, I would say that our first task is to promote active participation in that way, that in an issue that concerns us, and we have the right to ask, to decide. And I believe that youth policy should be brought closer to young people who have not been actively involved in decision-making process. especially local community, half local community, and the most important in local community are youth associations, student parliaments, high schooler parliaments, youth officers, local traditional media, and youth media. Young people are informed through social networks or social media. So it is important to present on them and use formats that do not bother young people. And youth policy can be actually very creative. Second, local action plans for young people are very important. Most municipalities and cities have them. These plans are written very well, and they recognize all the problems and needs, but they just get lost somewhere in the implementation. So the changes will not fall from the sky. We young people must also understand that we must initiate a change. The changes don't have to be big. It is important that we start with changes because
sorry, yeah, I was just picking up from changes not going to fall from the sky. I think this is something which is also very, very closely linked to the endurance that has been mentioned beforehand already. Christian, allow me to interrupt you. Just take some of, there are still high schoolers that I haven't heard of now, and one hand is raised, and that is Stanisha, I think.
Thank you. In North Macedonia, from recently, we have that law for youth engagement. The beginning of the law that not start very good, and we don't feel some change. But in the previous week, I see many people who are significated to youth work, and now I see in my city concretely youth center for youth people who want to change something.
Great, Mira.
So I know that this law was implemented last year, I think, law on youth participation and youth engagement. And I think that this law was really needed in my country because this law also promotes our professional development, our social development. And I know that this law also implements youth centers in every town in my country, and that has already started, which I really like. For example, in my town, the youth center is almost done, and that will really encourage us to be more active and to volunteer more.
Great. I would like to raise another question, which is a total change of debate, but this is because I have opened the debate to the young European ambassadors. And now first a question to those who aren't. Are you aware what these guys are doing, what the role is? Henna?
I vaguely know, so not really into detail, but I know that they're sort of like, let's say a connection, so a bridge between young people in a specific country and sort of like the EU. So they're first point on with EU countries. So yeah, that's really in short what I believe that it is.
It's just a few associations that come to mind when you hear young European ambassador. Stelio, what comes to your mind?
Well, to be honest, I hadn't heard of them until recently, but they seem like pretty good fellas, to be honest. What I think of them is that they are trying to promote the European Union, its goals, to develop youth engagement, to make the youth more active into local and central politics. And I also believe that it's a thing that I've mentioned before as well, is to make them more conscious of what it means to be European, of this larger European family.
Indeed.
That's basically.
Yeah,
that's what I understand when I hear that. Thank you.
Indeed. Abresha, I see your hand raised. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yes, the young European ambassador foster youth cooperation in their local communication and talk about the European Union topics that matter. They are peer role models. They share their voice, build mutual understanding, and also shape the views on the European and its relation with Easterns and neighborhood.
Thanks a lot. Tia.
Well, I would agree with everything that the people before me said, and I would say that they're the most cool people that try to better the world and the community. And I would give them a shout out and like a round of applause because they really do deserve it.
Well, round of applause, and I see a heart appearing at Strian. The floor is yours. Do you agree? Have this guys described your role correctly? Well, you have a stage on the silver plate now.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just say Happy Europe Day and Happy Victory Day to everybody. And the discussion so far has been great and really engaging and interesting. Well, these high schoolers are very well informed on our role, I would say. So
I love you.
Yeah, well, basically the idea is to present the European values and to bring the European Union closer to especially young people, but also all the other citizens in the Western Balkans. Somebody during the debate mentioned that the key is actually the promotion and the presentation of everything that is already being done by the EU, and that the large amount of people and citizens in the Western Balkans are not really aware of the scope of the help or the investments or the opportunities that are being offered to them by the EU, and also the perspective of these countries that are actually going towards the accession to the EU. So our role is exactly that, to bring the whole European idea closer to the citizens of the Western Balkans.
Thank you very much. Perhaps because we started late, so I took a little bit of freedom in extending the time. But we're still coming to something which is outragingly beyond our limits. So I will run through a few of you guys of the young European ambassadors, but just in a few words, perhaps to elaborate it was what has already been said, what your role is and how you fill it in, perhaps. Ariana.
Yes, hello to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We young European ambassadors are here to provide cooperation, coordination, inspiration, and insistence that young people to be an active and equal part of all fields and activities in the EU and abroad. One is sure that all that has been achieved in the EU will be the basis for building united, economically strong Europe. A world leader for actually its contemporary values and the foundation for its united Europe. We try to be a model full of high human, social and humanitarian values, and I promise that we will continue to move forward with geometric progress, and we're going to unite around ourselves as many as young people who will advance European values and the youth of the Balkans. And us as YEAS, we promise that we're going to be stand by the youth side in progressive and European activities, because youth deserves the European perspective, and we actually believe in this vision.
Ariana, you raised the bar high, but you seem to be up to it. I just take two other yes before coming to closure, and I just take the two next ones, which I see appearing on screen there with their hands raised. Alexander, and the question would now rather be like, how do you individually fill in this role?
Thank you, Olaf. Well, you mentioned already the law for youth, and basically we can add value to this law because we are also representing the young people, and we can contribute to the local councils that should be opened, and also the national council that should work with the government and the institutions in the country. But I still want to raise the point that a lot of young people that are part of the rural communities around our countries are not really engaged in this kind of youth policies. And I believe we should work on that a lot, because every young person should have his voice heard, even though if he lives in a smaller place or in a bigger city. And I believe that we should increase and fight for a bigger engagement of the young people in the decision-making processes, because in the Balkans, the level is still low, and in a way we are just like someone who takes part in the debates, who maybe is present when the talks are done, but in the end, our opinion is not really heard enough, in my opinion. And well, we as YES strive to promote that and to promote the young people's opinion and make it heard around our institutions. And I would just like to say that I was really excited to hear the high schoolers, and they're very bright young people. So I will encourage them to join us as YES in the next call for applications, because they can help us a lot.
Well, I totally join you in being impressed with everything that has been discussed. And I just take in one last person on describing what the years are actually about. And this is just like the coincidence of hands appearing on my screen. I don't want to exclude anybody. I really appreciate your willingness to join. But Sarah.
Hello. I must say that ever since I became a young European ambassador, I have been receiving quite interesting questions. And one of them was, will we go on a diplomatic mission in Brussels? And I answered, we will have a study visit in Brussels once the COVID conditions will allow us. But most importantly, we will bring Brussels in the Western Balkans. There is no doubt that young people in the Western Balkans are facing many challenges, but where there are great challenges, there are even greater opportunities. So our role as young European ambassador is to be that bridge that we will connect young people with the opportunities. By promoting the EU values, policies, and the programs that the EU is offering to the Western Balkans, we are working on decreasing the participation and fostering the sense of youth belonging to the European project. So although we come from different backgrounds and we are different as individuals, what we all have in common and the thing that is uniting us is the enthusiasm and aspiration to be a catalyst for a change in our communities in the Western Balkans region. So we are a creative network of 60 game changers who has once again shown that we should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can make a change in the region and in Europe. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. I am very glad that we are here to discuss one of the European Youth Goals, because it is a proof that we, as young people in the Western Balkans, share the same challenges with young people from the EU countries, and that we are united not only in diversity, but also in the things that we have in common. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you very much. And I'm horribly running out of time already. Well, we all are, and it's all my fault. But if you could all take down your hands now, and I will take in if two others who still feel there needs to be something added, who have not been heard yet. First hands are Loretta. Loretta and Kayla are the first two. Rivaldo, you're out. Loretta.
Hello, everyone. I will try to make my point as quickly as I can.
Great.
Being a young European ambassador is the most amazing thing that I have experiencing into my life. It's the most honorable title that I have ever held into my life. Certainly after the title I hold as a doctor. European Union is offering the youth a great deal of opportunities, engagements, and much more opportunity to go forward, to moving forward, better future. I feel hopeful that our future as a young people will be bright and will be shining. I want to say that I have a deep-seated faith into European Union to make our lives cheerful and hopefully.
Loretta, thank you very much. Now somebody has lowered their hands, and Rivaldo, you're the second one in my list here. But as I've already heard you a few times today, I give you 20 seconds. So as I said in the preparation meeting,
I'll be quick.
Say the most important thing first.
Yeah. Well, first thing that I was really upset or sad, let's say, it's like the ambassador of Albania is not here. So I would just want to say him hi at first, and the second thing is Can you please just, if he sees this, I just want to tell him, keep working harder. What are you doing now? It's not enough. It's not enough for this country. So keep pushing the government and the people. Because if you don't do that, then we will go down and down and down.
Rivaldo, thanks a lot. And Kayla, who had her hand raised, is back.
Okay, so thank you again for the
Very
floor.
shortly, one thing to add.
Okay, so firstly, I would like to thank all the young European ambassadors. I believe they are a really crucial part of the whole cycle of connecting youth with European Union. And I do believe that they are really wise, witty, and talented people who should be there to do their work as properly as they can. When talking about different youth laws and policies, I believe there's a lack of promotion and also a lack of information, and then that needs to be changed. So we need to have youngsters who know their responsibilities, their rights, and that should be done through promotion and also through different activities, such as the one we're having today. And lastly, as you previously asked about different activities and what we have gained as experience regarding them, I have taken part in different activities, engaged with more than 60 NGOs, but what was the most important part, and still is the fact that all the organizations have been amazed by the real potential that Albanians and also, let's say, Balkan countries representatives have. They have been amazed because there haven't been any other activities for these youngsters to show their potential. And because of this, their force and their power has been faded in and out. And what needs to be done is to have such activities and also greater knowledge of what youth is capable of doing. We need to let them come with ideas and also come up with actions that are implemented by taking into consideration these ideas. So we need to give youth the power to change the world and shape it a better future. Thank you.
This is exactly the ending word, the power to change the world. It is exactly the ending we needed. And unfortunately, well, as it goes, all things come to an end. I know there's still hands raised, and I would have loved to have more time to listen to all of you, so don't take it personal, please. But I have to say, I was really, really, really impressed by the maturity and the engagement of everybody who were with us today. And if there's a personal thing I really would love to add, it's you guys, you really rock. And I hope that the established ambassadors of the European Union have enjoyed today's debate as much as I did. So for a few closing remarks, I turn to you, the ambassadors. Could you tell us your views and impressions? And just a warning, each of you has a minute and a half precisely. We start with Sam Fabrizi, the ambassador of the European Union to Serbia. Sam, the floor is yours.
Thank you all of. Yes, I share your sense of pleasure for the enthusiasm, for the critics, for the critical thinking of this young ambassador. I think we, the 6 ambassadors in Western Balkan, can easily retire because there's a new generation ready to punch and to take the place. So good work, guys and girls. Push us and take your place. I think it's you, as also some of you have said, you are already, leaders of your generation. You are already engaged. Question will be, in my views, twofold. The first one is how to engage those of your generation who are not yet engaged. And this is the question where we as EU, we can really learn from you, because it's your generation, it's your language, it's your code, your buzzword, and nobody would understand better than among yourself. I'm a father of 3. At time I try to connect with my kids, and I see sometimes that they speak absolutely different language, and it's very difficult to connect intra-generational, especially an institution like the EU, who have the ambition to speak from the senior citizen to the young people, try to have different languages for us is very difficult. So the first comment would be, you should engage with the other. And second one, as a good civil servant, I pick up the question, the suggestion by Hannah or Anastasia to introduce the youth goal into the curriculum. This is a good suggestion. It's not easy, you know, because we have to respect the ministry, there is idea, but certainly I think it is an idea where we can collectively work. And thank you very much. Hvala puno.
Tim, thanks a lot. And this is of course great. We already have achieved something, that at least on the ambassador level, some of our proposals that have been made here are taken into account. Moving to the EU ambassador in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Johan Zattler. Johan, a few closing words, but really try to stick to the minute and a half.
Thank you, Olaf. Very quickly, very inspiring. Thanks for having us, first of all. I very much enjoyed, especially the second part, the free-flowing of arguments and exchanges. A couple of points I take away. One, connectivity. This is the buzzword now. This is both hard connectivity. Here we're very hard working on that one. Connecting people physically. It can't be that you need to spend 9 hours between Tirana and Sarajevo, for instance. So there's a big focus from our side on that. But of course, especially important, soft connectivity. And here, I had mentioned in the beginning, Raiko. I was also happy to hear Erasmus Plus. The good news here is that we have been able to double the money foreseen for Erasmus Plus, connecting students from the region with the European Union. And this will enable hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to get better connected. One other thing I take away from today's discussion, I don't know who said that change doesn't fall from the sky. And here my plea is, because somebody say, make our voices heard. My plea to you is get involved. One example here on the ground in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we are having started on a constitutional electoral reform. It's incredibly difficult because there's a lot of status quo forces, politicians who don't want to change. So we need you guys, get involved because this is your country, talking here about BIH, and we need you to make change here happen in this country.
We need you and get involved. I think this is another important takeaway. And we continue with the ambassador of the European Union to Kosovo, Tomasz Strujok. Tomasz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Olaf. I was really amazed by this energy and activism I have witnessed now. I have two main takeaways from this amazing 90 minutes. One is that young people share the same concerns. They have similar ideas. Basically, if you remove those flags and the names of the countries, you would probably not be able to distinguish the difference in the opinions. So I think that's encouraging. That's good for the future. The second thing I would say that, and this is what I'm pleased with, is that I heard basically a reconfirmation of our assistance priorities. I have heard a lot on Green Deal and protection of environment, ecology. I have heard a lot on the digitalization, connectivity, as Johan mentioned. And finally, I have heard education as the priority for the future assistance and future development. And those are exactly the three issues we are trying to assist Kosovo with. And we would continue to do that. So we hope that this can be, again, a next step in our cooperation. And I'm looking forward for future engagement. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. The next one is the EU ambassador to Montenegro, Ona Kristina Popa. Ona Kristina, your closing remarks.
Thank you. I would like to second my colleagues. It's been a pleasure to listen to the young generation. I have already connected here in Montenegro with the young European ambassadors very early on after I took over my mandate. And one thing that I need to say is that people in this region and in this country still need to sit down and talk. They need to have a dialogue. Remember, Europe was built on former enemies working together for common prosperity. So the history of this region is not different at all from the history of Europe as a whole. And you, the young generation, can do that. And you can teach also the older generation to have a comprehensive dialogue and to sit down and talk their problems out. And therefore, I also want to emphasize education. We here in Montenegro, we are already planning to start going in schools come September and to talk about the EU with school children, with kids at their level, to explain what the EU is about and to also make them aware of this extraordinary power that they have. You are the change. Change does not drop from the sky, you are right. But then you need to go one more step and also realize that you are the change. We can create the conditions and we're definitely doing that, but it's up to you to step in and do it. So I leave you with this, and I really look forward to continuing these fantastic discussions with you.
Great, also because what you announced is something that has been said earlier, to go into the schools and speak with people. So this is great to hear that some of the proposals are actually on the way already. And we conclude with the ambassador of the European Union to North Macedonia, David Gere. You're the one, David, you open today and you have almost the last words.
Thank you so much. And can I just echo the comments from all of my colleagues and the appreciation for your engagement, and also to say that I'm not at all surprised, because my experience of discussions with you across in North Macedonia has always been, I'm impressed by your energy and dynamism. Thanks also for setting some challenges. You're right, we need to do more, reaching out at the local level. We already do a lot, including through our Europe houses, which we hope to develop further in the country, but we can do more. A lot of what we've talked about is about trying to ensure that the kind of opportunities that we have enjoyed can also be enjoyed here. In other words, that the EU is part of the landscape. That's not because we're altruistic, it's because your generation is the future, and we need to engage and build a generation for the future, because we need your generation to work with us on some of the really key challenges of our time: green agenda, digitalization, equality, and indeed education, science, and research. Last of all, please continue to be demanding, very demanding, with us, with your authorities. It's very difficult for the authorities to ignore young people, and also with yourselves. And let me end with the words, and I'm sorry, Blendi, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to quote our first conversation with you when we met about 8 months ago, and I asked you, why are you engaged in activism? And your answer was, because I don't want to be part of a generation that just complains. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent ending words. And as I said, you have almost the last words. May I just add a few words of gratitude after these closing remarks. And that's a heartfelt thank you to all the ambassadors. Thank you very much to the European Commission's DG NEAR and to all the EU delegations from the Western Balkans who have contributed in making this debate work. But most of all, again, a huge thank you to all the young people for their active engagement, and to the young European ambassadors for their support. Well, and I am left with wishing you a great Europe Day, and I think we leave you with a group photo. And remember, it's all work in progress. See you soon.